Oops. Dave, all yours. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ruben. Hey, I love the 100% CV. Wow,
Yeah.
this is fantastic. And so, we're running near to the end, and my job is to kind of wrap things up. And I had a little talk, and I'm trying to do 3 things at the same time here. And guys aren't the best at multitasking, but we'll try and give it a shot. Okay, there we go. From the beginning. All right, here we go. Motivation. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is motivation. What is it? How does it work? And based on the definition that you find in the dictionary, it's the act or process of motivating. It's stimulus, it's influence, it's the incentive, it's drive. And so I want to tell you a story today, and it's about motivation and how it played a role in a young man's life. And I know the story well. I know this man and how motivation made it all happen. Now, it starts in Vancouver, Canada in 1975, and he was a budding entrepreneur in the natural health food store industry, and he got this product called Nature's Nougats. And this is an image that they couldn't find what it was, but anyway, here we go. And he imported this product from California, and it came up into Canada, and he was motivated to be part of this new industry and the possibilities that were going to happen. And he had to buy the product first in California, then he ship it up. Now, there was a little problem here because they had no preservatives in this product. And quite often you opened the box and these creatures started crawling out of the product. And so it made it a little bit of a challenge to go out and share that with other people. But anyway, he happened to be in West Vancouver on a street called Denman, and this was 1975, and he was going around approaching stores, and he went into this store and he was making a presentation to this woman behind the counter. And anyway, he started making his presentation, and out of a curtain, these beaded curtains back in those days, this guy comes out and he says, "Man, that was the best presentation I ever heard. Is that the only product that you represent?" And he answered, "Yeah, it is." And he said, "Well, how would you like to represent hundreds of products?" Well, needless to say, he was a little bit flattered and, of course, curious, and he wanted to learn more. And the man proceeded to invite him to a meeting a few days later and to find out. He was excited. I mean, this was a big deal. I mean, he was going to go from one product, which had some problems, to hundreds of products, but there was no way to figure out what this was all about. And so a few days later, he goes to this meeting and shows up, and he's the only one in the audience. And then lo and behold, he runs into this guy by the name of Jim Jantz. Jim Jantz had joined this company called Amway. Of course, he didn't know what Amway was. And it was, okay, this was a neat story, and this was a kind of a neat deal. And he had a great story to tell, and it sounded pretty exciting. And but he told him something that was the motivating factor that opened the door for the rest of his life to help him get what he wanted. Now, at this time, he was 24 years old, and he had really no idea of what he was going after. He was still trying to figure out his way in life. And he knew that he wanted things that he'd been exposed to growing up, but it seemed interesting enough to maybe he could do something here. And then the speaker said this. He said, imagine you owned a Coke machine on every corner of every street in America, and every time somebody bought a Coke, you made a nickel. Well, he's sitting in the audience, he's seeing these piles of nickels out there, and he's going, "Oh my God, this is actually incredible." And then he was exposed to a concept, and this concept was leverage. If you got 5, who got 5, who got 5, who got 5, wow, look at all those distribution points. This was very motivating. But with that being said, he had no idea of what to do. And so he went about trying to do it his way, and his efforts landed him some really nice recognition. But you can't spend recognition, but he ended up being about $25,000 in the hole. What caused this? A lack of understanding on what to do or how to do the business. But he wasn't totally discouraged here, but yet at the same time, not very motivated. Now, he still liked the idea, and he drew a picture out many times, this 5, who got 5, who got 5, who got 5 kind of things. And then over the next 12 years, he started a publishing company, and then he moved to the United States, and then he got involved with 12 more networking companies that, for anywhere from gold and insurance and vitamins and Juice Plus and, a variety of products. And I think it was he was around 29 and he joined this company called Herbalife. And that, as the company that had that sticker on the back, and it was lose weight now, ask me how. And he was telling me one day he was driving over the hill from the canyon to Los Angeles, and behind him, this car is honking his horn and says, get over, push over. He's trying to figure out what's going on here. And he said, well, what's this guy doing? And so he pulls over and gets out of the car. And then the guy behind him gets out of the car, and lo and behold, it's Ernest Borgnine. Now, you might know Ernest Borgnine. He started in the movie The Poseidon Adventure and McHale's Navy. And he points to that sign on the car and he says, does that work? And the guy says, yeah, it does. It does. And he said, well, come on over to my house. I want to get on that product. I need to lose some weight. Wow, this was great. This was really motivating. I mean, this was the beginning of a new career, and away we go. And then Mark Hughes, the owner, ended up fighting the FDA, and that basically lost, and he basically lost in that transaction, and so did most of the distributors in the US marketplace. And so that was another defeat and not very motivating, but he still saw those piles of nickels. And then in 1987, he found Cleopatras Secret. Now, this was really motivating. I mean, here's this cosmetic company with a very special anti-aging, anti-wrinkle face cream, totally in vogue at the time. And wow, what an idea and what a story, based on a Hollywood actress and great before and after pictures. And I mean, this seemed like the perfect deal. And he was introduced by an actor by the name of Brian Toshi from the Police Academy movie series. So there's some real credibility here in the development of this product, but this wasn't without some challenges. And let me explain how this process worked. So when you became a distributor with Cleopatras Secret, you actually became a grower of the end product. And as a grower, you made the ingredients that went into the product that made this wonderful face cream. It was a real hands-on, a real product being produced and manufactured, so to speak. But there was a bit of a stumbling block. and the stumbling block was what you were doing was growing milk mold. So you get a starter pack with 100 packages of these starters. You put them in 100 glasses of milk, and then you grow mold on that milk for a period of a week. Well, here's the problem. I don't know if you've ever grown milk mold before, but the odor is not very pleasant. And you're doing this as a home-based business, and this is in the back of your house, and you're growing this milk mold. And then the second part of the process, you have to harvest this crop. So you, at the end of a week, you take half of the milk mold, you stick it in an envelope, and you put it on a screen to dry. And then after it dries for a week, then you send it to the company and they paid you some money. But the problem was when people came to your house to go to a meeting, they couldn't get past the sidewalk before they were overwhelmed by this fragrance that was coming from your house. Well, fortunately, innovation and transformation created growing farms and moved to industrial areas. But even there, the people were complaining. It wasn't an easy task to do. But here's the thing. Shortly after the company got going, they created this contest. And the contest was to see how well you could do and how much you could sell and how many people you could bring in. And he won the contest. And there was a trip for two to Hawaii, and he went to Hawaii. And man, they had a meeting there that beat all meetings. This was it was all very religious too, of how important this was. And you got to go back to the country and you got to really do a good job. And they did. And they went back and they raised another $80 million and blew the doors off of production. And then, it's a wonder we didn't see what was going on. But, a few weeks later, the newsreel read, Kansas City-based Cleopatras Secret closed down by the FTC for fraud and being a Ponzi scheme. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, his heart hit the floor. His ego was shattered. I mean, he was beside himself with so many strange emotions at work here. I mean, all these years to come to this realization that maybe this doesn't work. I mean, this was not very motivational, or was it? Indirectly. So back to traditional business on his own to see what else he could do and provide for his family, which was his duty, and live his life, pay his bills, that freedom idea that he saw many years ago. And he found this company in Arizona, actually, that had a product that ate oil, literally ate oil. I mean, if you had oil in your driveway, oil in a spill, oil in, this product cleaned it all up. This was amazing. So again, with a partner, they figured out how to get this territory, and they got Southern California as a territory, and they went to town. And again, it was, motivating. Let's go, let's build this business, let's get excited, and so on and so forth. And they did, and they set up a dealer network, and they were servicing the government, the schools, and gas stations. And I mean, it was a going concern. And then a year later, the manufacturer goes broke, can't deliver the product. Oh my goodness, here we go. This is the third time. This is the fourth time. I mean, what is it going to take to make things work? Now he's really in a pickle, no money, no credit, and not a very good spot, kind of desperate, so to speak. And he was definitely hungry, and he was definitely motivated because he had a family to support, and that duty to him was the most important thing he could be working on. Then he gets this call in the early part of 1990. And this comes from a guy that he knew in Herbalife. And he says, hey, there's this new Japanese company in town. They're selling magnets. I think you should get involved. And of course, he wasn't paying attention. He was not going to do network marketing again after Cleopatras Secret. I mean, he was thinking to himself, you got to be nuts. Are you crazy? I mean, what are you thinking about? And kind of hung up the phone. And so obviously wasn't very impressed with what was going on, and and was not even the least bit curious, but because he had these huge problems. But anyway, he moves on, he gets rid of the company, and the guy keeps calling, keeps persisting. He keeps calling him, and he finally provides him with some information on the financial abilities that could be gotten as a result of being involved with this company. They were impressive. This looked like this could be the answer. And so, but he couldn't get any answers to the product. There was no internet, there was no smartphones, there was no way to research this. And it was kind of an obstacle that had to be overcome. And then he found this article in Time magazine and Life magazine at that time. And it said basically 50% of the population's having a hard time sleeping. So he thought to himself, well, man, I got about a 50% opportunity of being successful here. And so that was easy to learn about. He did some surveys, and he found out that people were interested in sleep, that was an important aspect. And so he decided that he would get involved. There was no other option. And he joined the company. And as a matter of fact, when he joined the company, and here was their first headquarters at 10866 Wilshire Boulevard on the second floor, he had an office in that facility. And this was a great way to learn about the business and learn meet some of the key corporate staff. And one of his beloved relationships was with a lady by the name of Pat Elkins. And here he was introducing Pat to Nikken, that was her first date when she started the company. So his role was kind of, put himself in the front lines, and it became a very important thing. But anyway, he could no longer work at Nikken. They thought that was a little bit of a conflict. So he moved to the office next door and set up an office there with some other people. And that was going to cost some money, and he didn't have the money. And so he goes to a father-in-law to ask him if he could have a loan because he really wanted to go after this business. And he's pitching him real hard, and he's making this presentation. He's real excited about the potential of this business. And he says, one day I'm going to be making $50,000 a month in this business. And his father-in-law looks at him and says, you're my son-in-law. I love you dearly, and I'll be happy to help you. But if you ever made $50,000 a month in this business, I'd kiss your ass in Macy's window. And he goes like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this was not the response he was thinking of getting. Now, he eventually showed him the checks, and many of them way more than that. But unfortunately, there was no action at Macy's. But initially, that impact was very powerful. At first, it was very negative, but then it became very motivational. It was a challenge, so to speak. It was kind of like the little engine that could. I think I can. I know I can. And he went out and started to do the business. Well, he got the loan. He put the blinders on. He went to work, and in the first 4 months, he met his monthly requirements. This was awesome. And then he went to town and went to work, and then he did it again, and he met his annual target. This was truly awesome. And then another shoe falls off. the company runs into a little bit of a legal channel with some distributors. Now, to him, he's on the outside, not getting all the inside scoop of what's going on. This didn't look very good. As a matter of fact, it looked like the business was over again. Oh my God, so what now? You know, what are we going to do? Stay, leave, go? How do we deal with this? Well, the answer was a bit of both, but mainly back to being entrepreneurial and back into the entrepreneurial America. And this time it was in a new industry, which we now know as cell phones. It was the digital wireless industry. And he and his partner found a couple of top 50 marketplaces in the country to develop and change from analog to digital. You now know that is Sprint and AT&T and T-Mobile in the United States and all the telecommunication carriers. And now this was brand new back then. Now to try to explain what was going on, the company developed this character called DigiDigital. And there's DigiDigital, and he was a character of zeros and ones, and his job was to represent what it was to go from analog to digital. And the creator was an employee, and we had a commercial at that time that explained everything. And then it was turned into a movie. And that movie is called It's a Digital World. You can find it on YouTube. And it starred Jessica Biel. And we all know who Jessica Biel is today. And she became a very famous actress. And that's a whole different story and that on a different timeline. And we're not about that. But anyway, that happened there. But both of the properties eventually got sold to Sprint, the technical properties. And then at the same time, Nikken solved its challenges, and a new era of Nikken, the sleeping giant awakens, emerges in the fall of 1994. And he's now retired in his home in California, and he's going to live off of his investments, his newfound wealth, and so on and so forth. And Nikken calls him with a lead. Somebody wants to buy a product. And of course, he hadn't seen anything for years, about 3.5. And so he said, well, I'll take the lead and I'll pass it on to somebody in my organization. And anyway, he moves on, passes it on to somebody in his organization, and continues on with his business. Well, as life would have it, some of those investments turn south. And before you know it, he's back doing Nikken, and he's doing it full time. And he's excited and motivated. And for the next 4 years, he goes out and he builds Nikken to new heights. And finally, in 2008, he reaches the top of the heap and goes to Japan, and then helps build the new building and becomes the first royal diamond in Southern California. And all of California for that matter. Now, it took some time to get to this journey. And as the fireworks were going off on the stage, and these were real fireworks going off on the stage in Kansas City when he was being presented with this award, he started to look back and say, you know, I'm gonna help those that help me. And it started his next journey. And then next journey was he wrote this book called Vested Interest. And this book became a #1 bestseller in the network marketing industry. It was published many times and translated into other languages. And that became the mantra. It is no longer available. Some people have found copies on eBay, and it's now in a digital form. And as Ruben mentioned, it can be found on his webpage at daverolfe.com. And he now spends all his time mentoring and helping other people. But, you know, he jokingly states he retired from active duty in 2000, which is true. And that was 21 years ago. But the truth is that he never stopped paying attention. And his role at that time had changed. And from the standpoint of something that the young ladies mentioned in their talk at the very beginning, it was freedom. It was freedom of choice. And what was so motivating about this business model was that you could build it your way. You know, you could do what you wanted. You could get what you wanted to get by being a part of this movement. And that's what he got in the end. I mean, the idea started out in 1975 and remained the motivation all throughout his career. And that was independence, freedom of choice, freedom of time, and the ability to do what he wanted when he wanted to do it. So what then is motivation? Or what could be considered motivational? Well, it's stimulus, it's influence, it's incentive, it's being inspired, necessity, reaching your goals, getting results, duty, conviction. I mean, if we look at it, the basics of life have not changed. We all need a good night's sleep. I mean, today it's 68% of the population has some kind of sleep problem. I mean, back in 1994, it was 50%. I mean, we all need good water. I mean, look at the surprising facts about dehydration, and pretty much everybody's dehydrated today. And if you go 3 or 4 days without water, you're dead. I mean, those are amazing statistics. We all need to reduce stress in our lives, and we all need to earn a decent income to live the way we want to live. And if there is something that you want, just never stop dreaming about it. You know, I mean, try your hardest to make what you're doing work for you so you get what you want, because that's what it's all about, whatever that is. And if what you are doing is not giving what you want, then tweak it. You know, it can be that simple. And in our business, there is no such thing as failure. There's only a lack of doing what you need to do. Now, Nikken can be the solution. It is the solution. Nikken is the business with a purpose. Nikken technologies are with a purpose. Nikken delivers products with a purpose. What's your purpose? What do you want? And let's work out the best strategy for you, because that's what's important. Go out and find those that are having a problem, you know, that a challenge, a desire, a need, or a want that can be accomplished by doing the Nikken model as a way, a route, a solution, an answer, a prayer, however you want to call it. Okay, this is the way it was done in the past. This is the way it's being done now. And I'm pretty sure this is the way it's always going to be done. So I'm going to stop the slideshow and then just make our conclusion here and end this event and pass it on to our leader. But Nikken has an amazing business model, and it's been going on for a long time and has a great track record. And like any other business, it works when you work it and do the right things. And moving forward, it needs to be worked. And you need to do the activities that are known to create the results you want. Now, today you heard from 3 rising stars that were inspired, that got motivated, that did the work and got results. You also heard from a master on how he did it and got results. Success with Nikken is learned behavior. Results with Nikken is doing the right work. So first off, I want to thank our wonderful guests today. Their stories were so inspiring. I mean, choked me up too, and they represent the true entrepreneurial spirit that was originally laid out by Isamu Masuda, the founder of Nikken. So thank you, Elena, Savannah, and Sophia. And thank you, Jeff Eisen. I mean, thanks for your message and your quick, Simon said, that was great. And just a quick story. When I had to do my life cycle back in 1990, I took it home, gave it to my kids because I didn't understand what they did. And they stuck a bunch of pictures on it and I took it back in. And when they had to present it, I didn't know what to do. So I learned my lesson on that one. So special thanks to you. And a special thanks to one of our most successful distributors, Mr. Dennis Williams and his wife, Ruth. And they definitely inspired many and led the way to a wonderful future. And anyway, thanks to all of us and thanks to all of our participants today. Hope you enjoyed the meeting. I hope you're motivated today. And it was a pleasure for me to tell you my story.